Welcome back to my channel. I'm Yuji and this is a Wednesday Reads book review video. Now this week I read a book called Missing Wings, the Chronicles of the, Aranysargas. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. This book is by Andrea Luhman and it was quite interesting. Let me see if I can give a synopsis without giving too much away because there's a lot that goes on in this story. This is a story about a girl named Katrina who was born a Velade. This is a species of shifting creatures, human creatures, who were blessed. They consider themselves blessed by God, people who could shift into a different form. And now Katrina's form is the winged, I guess, angel sort of person. She is kind of the messenger for God. So she was born that way and was considered of a very high status. Now she was born into the royal family under King Pavildon, and her mother was human, Lady Lena. And so events happened to the point where Lena fled, taking Katrina with her, and she ended up in a village of Skrieni, or people who sort of kind of deny their shifter side. And Katrina had her wings taken. And from there she went to an island to learn the ways of being a human lady. And it was all very complicated and fascinating because there are different races of Velade, the Mohegans, the Delphi, who have different abilities and are considered of one status or another. There's the ability to wander or talk to other people in sort of a mind walk or a dream state. And oh my goodness, it was absolutely fascinating. These characters were very much interesting to me because you got to see them grow and develop over the course of, I say, 15 years or so in this story. It's so Katrina grows, she has family that she talks with or doesn't. There's relationships with people outside, there's relationships with different races, and it's all this adventure of how she's trying to get back home and to get her wings back in the midst of a very political environment. And I liked it a lot. There is not as much open magic as I would have expected for a fantasy story, but I think it actually worked okay. I think this, because there were definite limitations and there were rules that a person had to follow, and it was fascinating to understand all of this and to learn as Katrina was learning as she was growing. So I think that was very interesting. As far as the writing goes, it was very, very fluid. This was a story that pulls you in and grabs you from the very beginning and kind of brings you all the way through the story. I liked that a lot. There were a bunch of questions that I think should have been answered, such as what happened to Lena afterwards, why certain things happened, I think would have been helpful to know. Little things like that I think were important, and I think the story, after having followed 15 years of Katrina's life, I get why it stopped where it did, but there was still so much that was left unanswered, and there isn't a second one as far as I'm aware, so it's kind of left up to the imagination, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that is in this sort of a context because it mirrored life. Well, if life were where you had wings and were a magical guide for your people. But I think these questions could have been answered. I would say I have no real critiques on the writing except the questions that could have been answered, and there was one persistent problem that I saw, and that was the possessive apostrophes. Most of the time, the possessive S on nouns was present. However, the apostrophe was not. This changed in the last third of the book where it was more present than otherwise. However, For most of the book, that lack of apostrophe jarred me a little bit too much. And now granted, I'm a linguist, I very much care about these sorts of things, and so I notice them a lot more than most people, but I think that was probably the main thing that bothered me about this book, was the lack of apostrophe, possessive apostrophes. Everything else was perfectly fine, all the grammar seemed fine, and spelling was fine, just the apostrophe, the possessive apostrophe, was missing a lot, and that was a bit frustrating. Otherwise, you know, I really liked this book. I would definitely recommend it. I think it's fascinating. It's definitely long. It does take a bit to get through, but it's worth it. I would say it's absolutely worth it. So you can, as usual, find all of the links in the description box below. Everything is there. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those. You can find me on my website. You can find information about Speaker of Words there. Anything you want to know, just feel free to ask. Otherwise, that's all I've got for you today. Have a good day. Bye.